The biggest lesson I've learned to date is that we don't do. It's a little weird, but yeah, I enjoyed it. Welcome to another episode of MT Talk. I'm your host, Nick Poli, and I have my brother, Anthony. You're also other host, Anthony. Gonna treat and have some conversations on some interesting topics. Let's get started.
What are some books and podcasts that have helped you with your physical therapy journey?
I mean, I'll always start with my favorite book, The Four Agreements. Love that book. It's so simple and has some valuable lessons that can be applied in all aspects of your life. I listened to a lot of School of Greatness. It covered health topics. It covered, mindset. It covered relationships, money. He covered a lot of topics. And I guess another book that helped in physical therapy school was my anatomy book. Read that a lot and try to learn all the muscles and where they attach and what they did and all that, stuff. When we were going through that part of our life, the college years and going into grad school, Nick, he got me in on a couple podcasts. Like, podcasts weren't like that big then, but we got into the School of Greatness by Lewis Howes, that podcast, and you would just listen to like a whole host of guests. That was super helpful. Do I wish I read more then? Like, you're reading so much for things that you have to read at school, but maybe not necessarily what you're interested in. And then we had this transition, like podcast was kind of like a multitask, and you're driving to class and you have something on the like playing in your car. And then now I feel like I've gotten more into like reading and less into podcasts. What kind of led to this moment? Just listening to different voices.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned from being a physical therapist?
We don't do as much as we think we do. The more I learn, it's the body healing. We're giving it the environment. We're helping the body get there. But at the end of the day, the body's the one healing. And it has an intelligence that we don't probably even know half. It's doing all these different processes. Digesting your food, absorbing water when you drink. You have a cut or an injury. You tear your muscle, like in a couple of weeks, there's new tissue there. There's so many different ways to approach an injury or like a patient or a client. And it could be frustrating, but like worked for one client doesn't always work for the next client who may have the same thing. So it's always like a puzzle, and it's not always like you're gonna get it right on the first try. There's some pressure to it. You're always learning. You're always trying to figure out what's gonna work. Like, oh, this is the one solution. And you realize that there's not one solution and everyone is different. There might be like a protocol you follow, maybe the gist of it gets you there, but there is give on that where this may not work, this may work for this person. You have to be able to adapt that.
How do you guys avoid burnout?
Having a couple days of just sleeping in with no alarm, like no alarm to wake me up. If I don't have to wake up with an alarm and I can just wake up naturally, that usually does the trick for me. I mean, for me, I guess, how do I recognize if I'm burnt out? I go somewhere different. I've done that so many times where recently I went to Costa Rica and I planned the trip 5 days before I went. That's how I take care of myself. I just need a change of scenery just to kind of shake things up a little bit.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned in life?
Know yourself. You got to do the deep work and figure out what's controlling your life. And then once you know that, once you have that awareness, you can actually start to create your life. When you're growing up and you think you know it all, and then you start learning. So you change what you think you know, and then you start learning more. And I don't know if you ever get to the end of that. You're just kind of going through these progressions.
What are the biggest lessons you've learned from your clients?
You got to be authentic to yourself. What are you into? And don't do something, I'm going to do this for the money and then I'll do what I want to do. The jobs that people think, I want to be, I wish I could be that. There's people that do it, they don't even like it and kind of feel that they're miserable. The most successful ones, when they started, they were no different than anybody in this room right now. If you want to get to that position, you can. It just shows you the possibility. It's really cool that it's a lot of people that broke into that area. They found something they loved, maybe saw an opportunity, but at the same time, they did sacrifice. If you think you want to be in that position for that person, you may. Where do you want to sacrifice? Because there's going to be a sacrifice. Are you willing to make that sacrifice? It was eye-opening. I'm like, all right, what do I actually really want? Let me do a little bit more soul searching. And number two is like, anybody in this room, this gym,
anyone who doesn't think they haven't made it yet, you can make it, because everyone who made it to the top, it's not like they all started there.
What is your full circle moment being a muscle therapist?
I always think about like, oh, how did I get here? Like, doing this type of work. And then I think back to like my childhood, and like I said, I couldn't wait to get home from school to play whatever sport. I just like to play. And then I think back to like now even getting what I'm doing here. I said to Anthony, I'm like, oh, I get it. Like, I made this life because I want to be able to play for as long as I can. And this allows me to do that. Muscle therapy allows me to be able to go out and do martial arts at a high level. I just love to play. And it's kind of funny how life takes you down these routes that like, oh, that's why I'm doing this, right? Because I want to help other people play.
It also gets us close to people that maybe we thought we wanted to be, right? You always wanted to be a professional athlete. So you get to work with some of those people, you kind of see their life and see if it makes sense. Or if you're like, oh yeah, I really like want to own a business, you can get around business people and kind of see how they operate, get to learn, almost learning from the same people that we were listening to on podcasts.
How does someone find a good muscle therapist?
See if you have body workers in the area. If you have someone good, is like if you have experience and if you feel good after, great. If you don't, try another person. Keep trying until you find the person that works for your body.
Yeah, I think I would just use your contacts, whoever you know, someone that you're friendly with. I would ask if they have somebody that they use, and then you give it a try, and if they like it, you keep going with it. For our business, word of mouth's the biggest referral source for us. That applies for anyone in your friend group. I'm sure somebody, has a therapist or, somebody that they get body work from that they like. And I would just say, yeah, great. Can you connect us and give them a try? I think that's the easiest way, because there's already a trust that's built in.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.